Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. If you desire to intimately connect with yourself, significant other, children, family, friends, community, and higher power, then this is the show for you. We explore intimate topics, inspiring life stories, spirituality, and insightful tips on strengthening relationships. The show is hosted by Dr. April and her co-host, Coach K. Let's get this episode of the Bringing Intimacy Back show started. We share with you today the secret power to intimacy to create the life you love or love the life you create. Now here's your host, Dr. April, and her co-host, Coach K.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. And surprise, I have a special host with me today. You were looking for Dr. April, but we have Jose that's going to be helping me today with the show. So welcome, Jose, and thank you, and say hello to the audience.
Thank you, Coach. My name is Jose. I'm a little bit nervous. I was telling you before that for me that is a new experience. Because my first language is Spanish, but I want to go like through my fears, and I want to have that experience because today will be very interesting, the conversation that we will have with our guests.
Well, that is awesome. I'm glad you get to experience that with us, being a live show. We just let life happen. So welcome. And we're definitely going to enjoy it. And I'm really excited about our guests that we're going to have on today. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about our charity of the month that we always want to make sure that we highlight at the beginning of all of our shows. And this month charity is GSA Network. And GSA Network is a next generation LGBTQIA plus racial and gender justice organization that empowers the trans, queer, trans, and allied youth leaders to advocate, organize, and mobilize an intersectional movement for safer schools and healthier communities, which is huge and major. So if anyone is looking for a charity to support or just to know more about, definitely check out the GSA Network. They can be found at www.gsanetwork.org. So one thing that I will say before we get into our guests is we always ask, and I've been asked already, we've already heard from Dr. April, because the show is bringing intimacy back. Let me ask you, what does intimacy mean to you?
Whoa. For me, I think intimacy for me is more about be vulnerable. It's like be yourself. Is more about it's when you have that time to share without judgment and to feel like free about be yourself. Um, it's very interesting because intimacy is related. Today I had a client, and we were talking about intimacy, and it's great because sometimes you have a partner like for 30 years, like today, and sometimes it's like, are you sure that you have that intimacy, that you have that communication, that you feel comfortable talking about whatever you want, and whatever you are thinking, sharing your feelings? Yeah, that is very, very interesting word, intimacy.
Well, thank you for that share. And I appreciate that because, yeah, you're right. Those are very good questions to ask, especially when you're in that long-term relationship. So now we have what it means to you, which is that closeness. So let's talk a little bit about who we're going to be talking to today. We have our guest who is going to be Chris Donaldson. Um, on his return from South America, Chris joined the family furniture shop in Belfast, which over the years has expanded into London and Dublin, which is awesome. He was UK Master Franchiser for a fitness company, developed a health and fitness franchise, and a mobile app company in Dubai. Wow, well traveled, where he lived for 8 years with his family on a 47-foot yacht. That is amazing. Um, so his hobbies include sailing and flying. Following his quest to do things his own way, he built his own aeroplane, and he still rides his Moto Guzzi Le Mans SOI 222. And some years ago, rode it to Moscow and St. Petersburg with his wife, Julie. So I won't bore you with too much of me trying to read through this. I want you all to meet Chris Donaldson yourself. So when we come back, we're going to be talking about going the wrong way with Chris Donaldson. We'll be right back.
Learn to cultivate a deeper connection with yourself and your inner spirit in order to further manifest a more fulfilling, intimate life. Find your purpose in life, develop unwavering confidence, heal your inner child, and authentically live this purpose every day. It starts with you. Couldn't be further from the truth. Intimacy is not taboo, nor should it cost a fortune. Get your copy today. It Starts With You is available on Amazon, Audible, and
Well, welcome, Chris Donaldson, to the show. I'm super excited to have you. Just reading the little bit that I did read about you, you are very interesting. You've traveled, you've been in all kinds of places. And
There's
as
lots of
soon
boring
as
stuff as well.
everyone hears your voice, thank you. Thank you so much. So I know you may have just heard, I put Jose on the spot. And we like to do this with all of our guests because it is the Bringing Intimacy Back show. So I'd love to hear from you. What is intimacy to you?
I guess it's being open with people and sharing your soul and putting yourself on the line and risking. I think we go through life with as an actor, putting a face in front of everybody, putting a show on, and bringing intimacy is taking the curtains down and letting people in to see your soul and be yourself. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, that transparency.
Yeah, you understand my Irish accent, okay?
Yes, I do. I actually worked for a global company, and the owner of the company was actually from Scotland. So
that's even worse.
Yeah, so it's pretty thick, so I can completely understand you.
Yeah.
So let everybody know where you are from, because I know they're like, well, where's this accent from?
Well, I'm from Belfast, Northern Ireland, so we've got about 100 accents in Ireland. This is just one of them.
Awesome. So let's kind of dive into things. So you talked about kind of being that transparent self, being true to who you are. So can you tell me, how has the internet changed communication in society?
Well, it's done a lot of good things, a lot of tremendous things, but I think it's cut a lot of people off from being social in the way. I mean, I'm 65 now, and think back to before internet, obviously. When you see my kids now communicating online all the time, it's a bit depressing that the social media is probably the worst named product around. There's nothing social about it. I think a lot of ways the internet has cut people off socially.
Yeah, I do agree. And do you think that COVID accelerated the advances of technology and kind of pushed us further into it?
I think it very much did. Yes, it drove everybody back in their little cubby holes into their homes and force people to communicate online. I think the world was going that way slowly anyway, but it's certainly give it a kickstart, and it's going to be very hard to get people out of that way now, because once people get accustomed to doing something a particular way, we are creatures of habit. And I think especially for young people who don't have the experience and they don't know what things were like before, if you don't know any other way of communicating, it's very hard to get out of it. I think kids are finding it hard to talk to each other because they're so used to texting each other.
Yeah, so I'm sure that it's definitely interfering with the intimacy of life. So how do you think life would be different if we just no longer had that internet as much as we have it now?
Well, it's pretty much impossible. I mean, I was giving a talk the other day about my travels. I recently traveled on a motorbike to Australia. And I traveled about 40 years ago on the same motorbike around the world. And somebody asked me, well, so what was one of the big differences, which is one of the big differences between then and now was obviously having the internet, having GPS, and being able to phone home and being able to get on WhatsApp and book everything online. And somebody said, well, why you could always not use it? And really, it's impossible. But the things in front of you, you've got your phone there. I'm not going to use my GPS. I'm going to get lost. I'm not going to phone home. I'm not going to, it is possible to do it, but extremely difficult for anybody in their right mind to give up what's there in front of you, what's easy to use, and what does make your life easier on the front side. But on the back side, you get all the negative side to it as well. But it's the thing about online is it's so good, so makes you so many benefits. It's impossible to really give it up and go back to the way it was before.
Yeah, I do agree. I remember printing out the MapQuest directions and setting it in the seat beside
Yeah.
I remember
being on a motorbike.
I remember that before you bought the maps in the gas stations.
Yeah.
Oh my God! It's a nightmare, because if you misunderstood the map, probably you will lose like an hour and a half, and that is some of the benefits of the GPS for sure.
Yeah, I mean, in the old days, we used to get a sense of direction, I think, from doing what you're talking about, for using a map and trying to work out how you're going to get somewhere. And if you did get lost, you had a sort of sense, an inner sense, well, I think it's over this way, or I think it's over that way. And very often you were right, because you had this sort of inbuilt sense of direction. But I think kids now, they don't even look at where you're going. You just follow the lady who's telling you where to go. So when you get there, you think, how did I get here? You couldn't drive home without the phone, because it's like being blindfolded. You just don't even notice the things you're driving past, But it's the way of the world. It's impossible to stop it.
I don't know. I don't know if you do that, but sometimes I'm in the street, and I'm just like go to my home, and I put the GPS. I don't know why. It's like just being aware about the time, the traffic, and now it's like it's something that is part of my life. My wife is always complaining with me, like, we are going to the house. Why you put in the GPS? I don't know. It's just part of.
You don't want to get lost going home.
Yeah.
So even thinking about that, just thinking about the intimate moments that you were able to have with yourself, of learning the lay of the land, learning where you are, and having a sense of being in solace before we had this technology, it made you trust yourself a little bit more. So would we think that technology may have taken some of that trust away from our own instincts? How do you feel about that? What do you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, whenever I left home in 1979, I knew I wanted to go off on my own. I didn't know why I wanted to go off on my own particularly. It was only afterwards when I was writing my book about my travels, that I was able to look back and 40 years later at my 21-year-old self and realize that I wanted to go away on my own to find out about myself, because I think when you're growing up, especially, you've got your parents, first of all, and then your relations and your teachers and your friends around you all the time. It's very hard to actually get to know yourself. You never get a chance to, because there's always people in your life. Then you get married and you have kids yourself. It's hard sometimes to get to know yourself. So I did realize then, when I went off on the motorbike on my own, it was actually to challenge myself on my own to see what I was like without all the other extraneous factors on myself. So it was quite a unique experience, probably for most people, because you don't normally get the chance to do that unless you make a very definite decision. You can go for, you do, a lot of people do. You go for a walk on your own. You go for a cycle on your own for a short period. I, of course, wanted to do it completely over the top and go away for a year and a half on my own. But I survived it all right by meeting up with lots of people along the way, which is nice too, because you get to know people from them not knowing you as an adult from the zero start. You're putting yourself to them without them having preconceptions of you from what they've heard. So I think it's a great way to travel, is on your own, because you do get to know yourself then. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. You really, and you learn to trust you more.
Yeah.
Which kind of translates into relationships that you get yourself into. So thinking about that technology, how has it not only changed the way people act, but do you think it's changed how we think?
Or not think? Yeah, or not think. I mean, I think we're only now realizing what the sort of damage the likes of Facebook and Instagram are doing on people, because we've put ourselves, I don't know, as the market, as the product for companies to sell to us, by making life so much, by giving us so much for free, like GPS, by like Facebook and all these other things. By giving us it supposedly for free, we're sort of selling ourselves, selling our soul. So you really started to sound like my dad. It's not like it used to be in our day, sort of thing, but it's not. It's terrible turning into your parents, you know.
Yeah.
But it is. I suppose experience does give you that extra edge that you can look back and compare what life was like before and what it's like now. And you hear horror stories about kids not wanting to leave their room. They order everything. They order their food online. They order their drink online. They speak to their friends online. You see them outside, and they're all sitting in a pub or sitting in a coffee shop on their phone, talking to people who are supposedly interested in them, who really don't care. Whereas they could be talking to somebody across the way, you know. Sounds very depressing, but it's not really that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
You go ahead.
Oh, I'm just like remember that some of my clients talk about that they have two kind of friends: the in-person friends and the web friends. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like very interesting because they have different reactions and different behaviors with both. Sometimes in like online they are more willing to talk, they feel like more comfortable, and in person they could be like shy and you need to press a little bit to talk, and it's like the people could have different personalities like in person and online. And I don't know, it's like probably is something that comes with the internet too, with that facility, you know.
Yeah, well, it's Facebook and there's Facebook, which is, I think the online friends aren't really friends at all. They're just, when they are some friends. Maybe I think I've got 850 friends on Facebook, and I really don't know that many people. But I use it as to contact people. I use it to sell books and stuff as well as it's not really friends. Friends are people you ring and you call and meet, not really you contact on Facebook or online. I don't really call them friends at all. But it is, I mean, the pubs in Ireland are closing down every day. There's pubs closing down because people don't go out anymore. They sit in and they watch TV and they watch Netflix and they go online and think they're talking to friends, but they're really just talking to people they're trying to impress, which isn't really what you need to do with friends. Friends, you shouldn't have to impress them. They should be able to talk to them openly and intimately, as you say. Hello?
But
Sorry, I've lost you there.
we go in and out.
Sorry.
So the audience is kind of used to
technology's trying to shut me up. I'm big too anti-technology. The bug is trying to put me out.
Look, technology is like, no, don't give away our secret.
Exactly.
Now, you talked a little bit about, basically you use the internet, as a way to let people know about your book. And your book is going.
So you disappeared again there?
Yeah, I just wanted you to let us know a little bit about your book.
Okay. Well, the book's about a journey I made. I tried to travel to Australia when I was 21. I lived in Northern Ireland. I was brought up in the Troubles in 79 in the 70s, so sort of wanted to get out of Ireland. But I didn't get very far. I got to London when the Ayatollah Khomeini took over the American embassy in Tehran and shut the road east, if you like. So I ended up going to Middle East, down across the Sahara, down to South Africa. I took a sailing boat back to Europe. I ended up in the States, got shipped to the States by the sponsors. Traveled up to Canada, down America, down through Central and South America. So I ended up left for Australia, ended up in Argentina 2 years later. So the book's called Going the Wrong Way. Obviously for obvious reasons, but also because I realized that I've sort of gone the wrong way in various stages in my life, gone the road less traveled, or the road that people shouldn't take, which has been more difficult. I've always gone for a challenge, I suppose. And then a couple of years ago, one of my friends said, well, you never got to Australia, so why not have another go? So I still had the same 45-year-old motorbike. So I decided to take it. So it was both, I think we have a combined age of 109 at this stage between the two of us. And I drove last year over to Australia from Northern Ireland again in 6 stages over the year and a half. So it gave me a great viewpoint on the way I was when I was 21, obviously from writing the book. But being able to do the same thing at 65, at the end of my working life, it's more of a coming of old age story now. Being able to compare my thoughts and processes but my physical being as well, between being 21 and being 65. And as I say, looking at myself growing up and how that affected me, to seeing how those things I learned when I was traveling when I was 21 have helped me through my life for the last 40 years, I guess. Can't remember what your question was now.
Yeah, because I like the title, Going the Wrong Way. And I think it's awesome that you're able to tell that story. My oldest, I called it, she ran away. She was 20 some years old. But she went off to another state. She didn't tell us. But I understand, when you want to, especially in this era now, but even then, you wanted to just learn you and just wrap your head around you and grow you. So do you feel like if you had not have gone, that you would not be the person and know the things you know now, versus had you gone?
Well, very much so. I mean, it was one of the reasons it was so difficult was I'd planned to go to Australia, so I'd learned all about what was going on in that direction, and ended up going to 4 different continents that I didn't know anything about. So it was very much a bit of a disaster story. Stumbling from one chaotic situation to the next. I actually drove off my map at one stage going down Africa. I didn't again, without technology in those days, you would have had to have a guidebook to find out what was happening in the next country, whereas now you just Google it. But in those days, you would have to ask somebody come traveling the other direction, what's happening down there? Is it safe? Is there a war going on? Which very often there was in Africa. So it was very much, it was a difficult journey, and I learned a lot about myself and how to get over difficult situations. At one review, guy came back to me and says his kid was in hospital, and he was reading my book out to him, and really helped him, because whenever he saw me getting through the difficulties I was having in various situations, even though his son was ill, he was having through a series of operations. It gave him great hope and inspiration that he was able to be positive. So as a writer, it's great to have that sort of review coming back to you, that you've actually helped somebody and give them confidence to get on their way,
Yeah. Now, do you think that it would have been different for you personally had you done that with friends versus how you did it?
I think so, because simply put, if you're going into a coffee shop or a bar or something on your own, chances are you'll look around and see somebody and chat to them in the corner or whatever. But if you're with somebody, if you're with a friend, whatever, you talk together, you don't pay any attention to anybody outside your circle, especially if it's 3 or 4 of you. So if you're on your own, if you haven't spoken to somebody all day, you're much more inclined to make the effort to talk to somebody. And by doing that, you get to know them and learn about their selves, about their culture, about what's going on in that country. So it's definitely the only way to travel from that way. If you want to learn about other people as well and yourself and talk to other people, which is what traveling is about. It's, to me, anyway, it should be a learning experience, learning about the country, about the people you're going to see, and about yourself. The journey I made last year in the last going to Australia has been slightly different, because at 65, I think people have a slightly different set of problems, and that people that are retiring, I find, very often are sort of lost from a different direction because they don't know what to do with themselves anymore. People have been working for 40 years, they've given up work, they've maybe given themselves, their family and their job for 40 years. Kids have left home, and you're stuck with a wife or the husband, and you're trying to rediscover yourself again, So I wanted to sort of show people, if you like, that you can still do what you did when you were 21. If you just have to do it slower and have a bit of a rest afterwards, because you're going to be tired. I used to be able to ride my motorbike. I used to be able to ride my motorbike all day and go out and party all night. Now I just want to go to bed with a cup of cocoa.
It's definitely a lot different. Well, I definitely can appreciate you sharing that with us. And I'm pretty sure you can be an inspiration to people who want to maybe just go off and find themselves, just spend that solace time with themselves. And so for our audience that's out there, if they want to know more about you, if they want to find you, if they want to find this book, how can they find you?
Well, it's on Amazon, a company we love to buy from, but hate to support in a way because they're putting everybody out of work. Hope I'm going to be barred again. That bug's going to come back. But yeah, it's on Amazon and on ebook, paperback, and audiobook, if you want to hear more Northern Ireland accent. And it was also my website, chrisdonaldson.world. You can see all my contact details there, but Amazon's the best place to get it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing all of this with us and opening up the minds of everyone that's listening and talking about, the difference of then and now and how technology has really changed us, and talking about going the wrong way can mean many different things. And you have talked about that today. So thank you for being a part of our show today. And we will be right back after this quick break.
Thank you.
Are you in a relationship with someone that you see often, but you feel so disconnected with them? Bringing intimacy back can help you bring the intimacy back to your relationship. BIB is dedicated to inspire, enlighten, and encourage intimate connections. Live shows, weekly guest speakers with over 29,000 downloads. We can help promote your products and services, grow your business and clientele with BIB. Want to become part of the BIB family? You can now sponsor with us.
All right, welcome back to Bringing Intimacy Back, where intimacy is real. That was awesome to hear about, to know that somebody rode a motorbike across continents in a time where there was no lady on the phone saying, turn right here, and not knowing what was going on in the world. So that was pretty awesome. And to know that, you can get back to learning yourself if you just take that time to just go off the grid sometimes. That's what I got from this. Mm-hmm. What'd you get?
I can get like that hunger to, like to feel free, to live your dreams. I don't know, like I'm just always dreaming about to have that kind of job that you can travel and you can see like a lot of places, and you can drink coffee in different places, talk with different people, and it's like that's for me is kind of a dream, like visits. Like I heard something about Russia and also Argentina, and that's great. That for me is like something that I can only imagine, but he lived that. That's great. That's great.
Well, from what I understand, if you're saying it's a dream, and from what I understand that he's done, it sounds like you need to just go get your motorbike and going on out in the world.
Yeah.
Well, that was definitely a great show. And again, I do thank Chris Donaldson for coming in and sharing his experience with us. And we have some more amazing shows coming up over the next couple of weeks. Do you want to read those for us?
Just give me a second.
I love putting you on the spot, don't it?
Yeah, for July. For July 6th is Sex Don't Start in the Bedroom. Ooh, that would be great. July 13 is Living Before Marriage, the Beginning of the End. Well, the July 20 is the Remarkable Healing Power of Crisis with Susan Falter. And July 27 is The Soul, What is Good For with Corey Rosinski. Kind of.
Rosinski. I say it the same way. Thank you. Thank you for that. I love putting you on the spot. Some great shows coming up. And to remember our audience who's out there listening, if you love the show, if you like the show, if you want us to do something different, just feel free to make sure you comment, share, and let us know. Rate us and make sure you're following us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Clubhouse. And also, you can always listen to the podcast on iTunes. And we appreciate your reviews because we can only get better and talk about those topics that you like by hearing from you. Again, we thank Chris Donaldson for coming by, talking about his book, Going the Wrong Way, which is on Amazon, or you can go right to his website, chrisdonaldson.world. And I thank you, Jose, for letting me continuously put you on the spot. This has been Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. We will catch you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Bringing Intimacy Back, where intimacy is real. You can also find us at bringingintimacyback.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Dr. April Brown's 7-book series, Improving Intimacy, is now on Amazon. We'll see you next Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe.